Hello, this is John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. My name is John Pollock, and we are coming off a historic end to the longest title reign in UFC history this past weekend, as there is a new king at 185 pounds. We're going to chat in depth about the Chris Weidman-Anderson Silva fight, plus exclusive comments from Jon Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, Chris Cyborg, who returns to action this weekend, and more, including John Ramdine and Robin Black with 3 rounds, and Priscilla Caripan presents The Ship. We dive into things right away, though, with this week's Newsmakers. UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones and challenger Alexander Gustafsson made their way to Toronto this week to kick off ticket sales for UFC 165 set for the Air Canada Centre on September the 21st. Fight Network was there at the Real Sports Bar as Jones looks to make the 6th defense of his light heavyweight gold against the Mauler.
I don't feel a burden in being a champion. I don't allow myself to, knowing that, I'm a guy who haven't really done as much as a lot of great champions. There's things that Matt Hughes has done more than me. GSP has won more titles than me. Anderson Silva has won more titles than me. There's just so many records that are out there that I don't have. So that's why, when people consider me the #1 fighter in the world, and I don't own many records, it doesn't sit well with me. So I feel as if I'm still a young guy. I'm 25 years old, and I have no right to be the youngest guy in the division, but be complacent. I'm continuing to work hard. I feel like I'm at the beginning of my journey. I feel like I'm still learning how to fight. I'm still learning how to deal with media, still learning how to be where I'm at, and it's really just getting started.
I see the greatest test in my career. He's a champion for a reason, and I'm so ready for this fight. I'm very motivated, and my win would just taste better.
The light heavyweight champion spoke to members of the media after the press conference and broke down the Swedish challenger Gustafsson, who comes into this fight with an impressive 15-1 record, as Jones explains why he wanted this fight with Gustafsson.
People are starting to ask me, who can you see fighting next? And Gustafsson's been a name I've been throwing out there for a while. I just wanted to be clear to people that, Gustafsson hasn't hunted me down to get this shot. I've been waiting for him to come along this whole time. I think me winning a record and proving more critics wrong at the same time is just like a fairy tale way to win the record for me. There's no one better for me to beat than someone who's young like me and tall like me with the reach too. It's like I canceled out that record and pretty much all the critics with one big fight. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and so I feel really right on schedule. This is perfect. What I need to do is just to be myself, confident, dynamic, diverse in my skills, strong, great cardio, take the fight seriously and train my hardest. Train like this is the most important thing that I've ever done. And if I do that, there's no reason why I should lose to him. I think his clear strength is his boxing ability. I'm not sure which is his bigger weakness, whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu, but I'll figure that out once I get more in depth in my studying.
Also at the press conference, I got to speak with the 26-year-old challenger Gustafsson, who we have not seen in action since December of last year when his arm was raised over Mauricio Shogun Rua, and will headline his first pay-per-view event on September the 21st against many people's top pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Is this kind of surreal for you? This was a fight that you've wanted for so long, and I think you kind of understood that, it's one thing to do, what you do inside the cage, but you also have to be active. You've got to be vocal saying, I want this fight. Did that kind of click for you, seeing other guys that, you have to stand up and say, hey, I want this fight, and now you've got it?
Yeah. I understand that. I understood that a little bit later in my career, like now, but, now I know what it takes, and I'm so ready.
How does this compare to, the week of the Gegard Mousasi fight? It seemed that was just rock bottom for you. Had to be so frustrating, and here you are. It's a complete 180. Now you are getting set to fight for the title coming up in September.
Yeah, I'm so pumped for this fight, and everything just turned, and I'm going to do the best, the best that I can to make the best of the situations.
Tell us about the two of you were recently in Russia together. You guys had a stare down that you posted online as well. This was before the fight was even announced, but have you kind of got to hang out with Jon Jones?
No, we haven't hung out like that, but we met in Russia, and that was a wow experience because he didn't know I was there and I didn't know he was there. So, but it was fun.
What are going to be some of the difficulties here of kind of breaking down Jon Jones along with all of the media pressure that comes with headlining a pay-per-view event?
No, it's not difficult at all. I'm just having fun in the spotlight and just enjoying every second of this. So.
Of course, the talk of the entire mixed martial arts world centers around now former middleweight champion Anderson Silva and his performance against new champion Chris Weidman this past Saturday. Jon Jones shared his thoughts on Silva's performance and what ultimately cost him his title after a dominant run inside of the UFC for the past 7 years.
Anderson Silva is a magnificent fighter. I think that he has an extraordinary gift. I think he's gotten to the point where he really believes in his gift and he's comfortable with his gift. And he abused his gift. He disrespected the gift by disrespecting his opponent. Martial arts is traditionally a sport that is based around honor and integrity and treating people with respect, and he somehow lost sight of that, and he paid the ultimate price for it. So I'm not over the Anderson Silva hype train. I know exactly where he's at. You could tell where he's at by the way he was fighting. I think he was fighting at a masterful level. I think he just got disrespectful, and the war gods just made him pay for it. But he's still that great Anderson Silva in my book. So.
It was Chris Weidman and his left hook that will receive the credit for ending the 2,457-day title reign of Anderson Silva at UFC 162, with the rematch already looming in the air. For more on this historic moment in mixed martial arts history, we take a deeper look at the 29-year-old undefeated Chris Weidman and the biggest win of his professional career this past weekend.
At UFC 162, Chris Weidman shocked the world.
Thank God. The only way this could have happened is God. He's the unbeatable freaking Bruce Lee of mixed martial arts.
Beating the longest reigning UFC champion has undoubtedly changed the young Long Islander's life.
He was an idol of mine. I didn't like to say it during the camp, but I looked up to that guy for a long time.
But the big question on everyone's mind is what's next. Dana White was clear even before the bout that if the Spider were to lose, he would get a rematch. But in the immediate aftermath of the fight, Silva was less than committed to facing Weidman again.
Anderson, would you like to have a rematch with Chris Weidman?
No. Chris is the champion now. That's it. I finished my working. I don't fight more for the belt.
In the pre-fight lead-up, Anderson expressed his long-held desire to fight former boxing champion Roy Jones Jr. If Silva does not want to return to the octagon, immediately a boxing match with Jones Jr. would certainly be on the table.
It's an event, not a boxing match, not an MMA fight, but an event against two guys who have that razzle-dazzle, and when they're focused, you can't whoop them.
With the uncertainty surrounding Silva, a number of other middleweights have thrown their name into the hat, including the young dinosaur Vitor Belfort.
I must have 172 text messages from Vitor Belfort on my phone right now, okay? He's a man of God, but I'm pretty sure he was swearing at me in a few of them.
After a victorious return against Tim Boetsch, Mark Munoz also called out the champion to avenge his knockout loss to the Hofstra alum.
If Anderson doesn't fight Chris, I would love to step in. I'd love to step in because this was a real Mark Munoz tonight.
Despite the long line of challengers as well as the Spider's non-committal to a rematch, Dana White feels that after some time off, Silva will want his revenge.
I guarantee you, no matter what he says publicly, and we've had this conversation before, I guarantee you there's nothing he wants more than that rematch with Chris Weidman.
And this week's tweet of the week comes from Weidman's teammate Jean Vellante, and it features the new champion, who now has an added accessory for all his future trips. It's interesting that Weidman also had to go through the metal detector right after this photo was taken and put his hands up, which I can only hope the former champion takes note of for a future rematch. There was another middleweight who returned to action in dominant fashion, and that was Mark Munoz, who looked tremendous in earning a unanimous decision over the tough Tim Boetsch this past weekend. It was Munoz's first fight since July of last year, following major foot surgery, and he tells Ariel Helwani what he wants next.
You know what? I didn't hear that. I don't pay attention to that too much. But now that I heard it, yeah, it kind of hits a switch in me. But I wasn't myself in that fight, and I'll chalk it up as a loss, but a learning experience. And I'm back, and I'll be more than happy to fight him again.
Invicta FC will present show number 6 this Saturday night from Kansas City, Missouri, and will crown their first featherweight champion in the main event with a rematch from 2010 as Chris Cyborg will meet Marloes Coenen, and Cyborg tells us how she will approach the rematch 3.5 years after they first fought.
She's a very good fighter, and after this fight, after the Strikeforce fight, she's told me, I want to fight you again. And I'm very excited for the next fight because I know she's a good fighter and she's a true fighter. Because the first girl say you want to fight me again, I respect her about that.
And that will be the main event of Invicta 6 coming up this Saturday night. And John, I'm just curious because I really want to see the 3 undercard fights that are going to kick off the show, and I'm hoping I can find somewhere to watch them.
Yes, you can watch those right here on Fight Network. We got the prelims, so very exciting stuff for both Fight Network and Invicta.
And you and Robin are going to be chatting more about Invicta coming up on 3 rounds, correct?
Absolutely. We're talking about the biggest fight in the men's class being Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman, and the biggest fight in the women's class right now being Hunnam and Cyborg. That and a ton more.
There you go. John Ramsey and Robin Black are coming up as we continue on Fight News Now.
He abused this gift. He disrespected the gift by disrespecting his opponent. Martial arts is traditionally a sport that is based around honor and integrity and treating people with respect, and he somehow lost sight of that, and he paid the ultimate price for it.
We're back on Fight News Now, and that was UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones sharing his thoughts on the performance of Anderson Silva, and that leads us into this week's edition of 3 Rounds with John Ramsey and Robin Black, as we are coming off of one of the most historic moments in UFC history. Of course, Edson Barboza for the second time stopping a man with leg kicks.
Yeah, Barboza looking fantastic on Saturday night, and definitely going to throw his hat into the UFC's 155-pound championship mix. Going to be a tall order, young guy, explosive, and I think just the possibilities for Edson Barboza very exciting when you think about who this guy could be matched up against. But we got to talk about what went down in the main event. Chris Weidman, I don't know about shock in the world, because a lot of people anticipated that he would emerge victorious. But Anderson Silva, a lot of people believed he was the cause of his own downfall because of his overconfidence or his cockiness. But you're not buying into it. You think that Chris Weidman got into his head. You felt that Anderson Silva's confidence was a little shaky in that first and second round, and that Weidman had the perfect game plan leading up to this fight, and he just stuck to it and emerged victorious with the title around his waist.
Yeah, it was Weidman's own words that made me feel that way. You know, during the lead up, Weidman spoke on and on and on about what he was preparing for. He never talked about the clinch, never talked about striking, never talked about mobility. He just kept talking about the fact that Anderson Silva gets into people's heads, breaks them, and makes them feel like they don't belong in there with him. He geared in on that as Anderson Silva's greatest weapon over the last few years, and it was. And it was that weapon that he prepared for, and it was that weapon that was Silva's undoing. If he hadn't talked extensively about this exact thing and then finished the fight in that exact way, you know, we might be able to say that Anderson Silva just, you know, the bed. But no, he prepared for that. He was ready for that, and he finished him because of that.
Weidman, just his confidence. I mean, you and I spent a little bit of time talking to this guy. He was just so motivated. He believed that, you know, you just can't focus on the myth of Anderson Silva, and that's what he did going into this fight. A tremendous job done, but I have to think that Anderson Silva, you know, we know the UFC is going to give this guy a rematch. But will he have the same mentality going into the second fight? Will Chris Weidman have to amend his game going into the second fight?
Hey, man, it's really hard to say. Anderson Silva has used that weapon so extensively for so long, it's become a part of him. And, you know, that myth, that creating that feeling that he is the greatest in the world by the way he dances and acts and plays, that works. It's worked on many fighters in the past, and it works on fans. It works on intelligent fight people. We've had discussions. I mean, the cool thing about this fight is everybody's talking about it. It's hard not to. We've had discussions with highly, you know, educated fight people who are like, oh, Anderson Silva was owning him in that second round. Look, he convinced you people too. He convinced Forrest, he convinced all his opponents of that, and he convinces the fans and the watchers. Anderson Silva did not land one meaningful punch in that second round, and yet we're all standing around going, wow, judging by that second round, he's going to kill him next time. It's an illusion he creates to get in your head, and Weidman prepared for it, Weidman talked about it, and Weidman dealt with it.
We heard from Jon Jones there. He believes that Anderson Silva was just his cockiness. George St. Pierre said the same thing. He just felt that it was the showboating that cost Anderson Silva the title. And again, you have to imagine that Anderson Silva, considering many people believe that he is one of the pound for pound, if not the greatest fighter to ever step inside of the cage or octagon, that he'll be able to move past this. That he'll, you know, he's got some ability to say, okay, this is a loss. I did some things I shouldn't have done. Let's amend our game plan and move forward as a better Anderson Silva going into the second fight.
Yes, and Anderson Silva has the most incredible skill set of almost any fighter ever, and he should be able to beat a surging young man like Chris Weidman. He should be able to, but he's a different man today. Think of all these intangibles. Look at his cornermen. When he went into that corner, they were scared of him. They needed to calm him down, but he's at the top of the pecking order. When Jay-Z makes a record, the guys in the studio go, oh, yo, Jay, that is the best record you've ever made. Oh, listen how good it is, man. This thing is killer.
Is Kanye saying that?
Hey, man, Kanye's got people around him, too. Beyonce, like, you're the biggest in the world. You're surrounded by yes men who make their money off of you. All these yes men. Oh, Anderson, man, baby, the way you move, it's unbelievable. Anderson has to go back, get rid of all these people, lock himself in a training camp with the most key people, and become the Anderson Silva that he once was, the Anderson Silva that destroyed Rich Franklin, and come back and beat this guy. Because Chris Weidman was confident before. He's going to have crazy confidence now.
I just expect Anderson Silva going into this fight with Weidman, wanted some sort of retribution. He's friends with Mark Munoz. Chris Weidman's a guy that really doled out a beating to Mark Munoz. So who knows? Maybe it was some sort of payback that didn't go Anderson Silva's way. But you would imagine, again, being one of the pound-for-pound best in the world, he'd be able to make some amendments going into the second fight.
Well, the fight is not always exactly as we see either. When he fought Maya and when he fought Talis Ladies, those were the two times he played this game the most with Weidman. What do those three have in common? They're dangerous on the ground. All three of them. He plays this game when he doesn't want you to take him to the ground, either to get you to angry at him, to get you to chase him, and to keep his hands down to defend that takedown. If he plays it serious and it's fight for fight, he still has to deal with a Chris Weidman who can hurt him on the feet and take him to the ground. This is all real. This is the toughest fight that he's ever had because of how Weidman stacks up. Everybody said it going in. It still is. Anderson Silva is the greatest fighter of all time. If he pulls it together, he can beat Chris Weidman, then we'll see a third one.
Rob, we got to talk about Invicta 6, which goes down this weekend in Kansas City. The main event, Marlus Kunin taking on Cyborg Justino, formerly known as Cyborg Santos. A great rematch, a real clash of styles here, and an excellent job done by Invicta because, quite frankly, you do well in Invicta, you're going to the UFC, and we look at Kunin, 15 submissions, Cyborg, 9 knockouts, a clash of styles that the fans are going to love for sure.
Yeah, Cyborg is the one to beat. Can you beat her? And Kunin has the game to do it. It's can you handle that physicality? Can you handle the grind? This is a great organization. Shannon Knapp, the promoter, is the real deal. This promotion is real. It's going to do very well, and this is a great fight.
I love the fight very much. I mean, a rematch, the story is there. Cyborg, one of the best female fighters in the world. Kunin can really cement her place, John. If she gets a big victory over Cyborg, she could go to the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Very much so, a possibility for Kunin. We will see how she fares at 145 pounds. If you are not sick of these two, you can get more of them every Monday night at 7 Eastern on 5 rounds, an expanded version of this. But we are going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we are going to be taking a look at the shift as well as this week's viral video as Fight News Now continues. Welcome back to Fight News Now. We want to let you know about some great live action we have coming your way this Saturday as Infusion Kickboxing is coming at you at 4:30 Eastern. And we are also happy to announce we will be carrying 3 of the undercard bouts for Invicta FC 6 starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, featuring Ashley Cummins versus Emily Kagan among the 3 fights. But we now transition over to Priscilla Caripan as she presents The Shift.
Thanks, John. Solid Snake has been neutralizing terrorist threats since he first arrived on consoles back in 1987, and now Konami is releasing the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection. You get 25 years worth of gaming, plus 2 graphic novels, and a couple posters. It's what you need if you're a Metal Gear nerd. This weekend, it's all about monsters versus robot. Yes, I'm talking about Pacific Rim. The film, directed by Guillermo del Toro, focuses on 2 pilots controlling a man-made machine to fight these massive monsters called kaijus that are taking over the Earth. Let's take a look at the film and what the cast had to say about the project.
Chaos is spreading around the globe. As tall as buildings.
We always thought alien life would come from the stars, but it came from deep beneath the sea, a portal between dimensions in the Pacific Ocean.
The way you meet us in the story, it really is the 11th hour. Every resource that Earth has to offer has been put into this.
What the hell is going on?
I play Dr. Newton Geisler. I need to access a kaiju brain. I'm a bit of an odd guy. I'm obsessed with these monsters, the kaiju.
You have no idea who the hell I am or where I come from.
He runs what is called the Shatterdome, which is a sort of central base for these amazing robots that spearhead the efforts to fight the kaiju.
What the hell do you want a secondary brain for anyway? I mean, every part of the kaiju cell.
Hannibal Chow is
a materialist in terms of him getting the rights to any fallen kaiju.
The kaijus from Japanese movies, this means monster.
What sets this apart is just Guillermo.
Guillermo del Toro has managed to create this world in a way that you believe.
This is a Guillermo del Toro imagination, and it's beyond the dreams of most people. I mean, you wouldn't come up with this.
You need two soldiers to run a Jaeger, and the two soldiers have to, what we call drift, which is have a neural connection between both brains in order to man the robot.
The idea I came up with was to systematize it through martial arts. So there would be a basic language, basic number of poses that you would be able to adopt in a fight with a kaiju.
3, 2, lock.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
The action in the movie is what you would have dreamt to see when you were 11 years old.
This is titans on screen. This is gods walking the earth. Hopefully people will come away from this, like, as if they've just been punched in the face.
This film is going to have multiple epic clashes, so don't miss out on the action. It comes out on July 12th. That's all for The Shift this week. Now back over to you, John.
Thank you, Priscilla. And yes, it is that time of the week for the viral video you've come to love and hate at the same time. This week, it's a special tribute to the underappreciated leapfrog technique. And sadly, that man died right after that. That wraps up this week's edition of Fight News Now. Thank you to our guests Jon Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, Chris Cyborg, and you for joining us. Don't miss 5 rounds every Monday at 7 Eastern, the MMA Report with myself, Thursdays at FightNetwork.com and on iTunes, and tune in Saturday at 7 Eastern for the Invicta FC6 undercard. For John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Caripan, I'm John Pollock, and enjoy all of the fights this weekend.
Gustafsson!